Hey everybody, it's Rajesh here.
And Tane here.
Welcome to our podcast, Baskets of Knowledge, Chats with a Difference. In our podcast, we invite guests from around the country and around the world to talk about how they got to where they're at the moment. It's about a journey, it's about an experience, it's about their life. Kia ora to everybody. Welcome to another episode of Baskets of Knowledge. For our regular listeners, thank you for listening in. For our new listeners, welcome to this episode, and hopefully you become a fan of what we do here with Baskets of Knowledge. Tanya, nice to see you. We've missed you over the last few weeks. How have you been?
Yeah, I've been good. It's been a very big transitioning period, finishing up research and then getting into summer work up here in Blenheim, working on the vineyard. So it's been a big transition over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, what any big learnings for us to share over the last, especially because it's a big change for you, just finishing one part of your
I think for me, probably the last couple of weeks, I guess, and probably something that's been reflective through the whole year is just how important your health is. You know, I've had a few health issues throughout the year. You know, either being injuries or illness, and it just stops your daily routine, your daily life-to-life activities, and I think sometimes we take it for granted when we have good health because we just, that's how we live most of the time. But I think this year, realizing, just how important it is to everything else. And as soon as your health goes, it pretty much stops all your other avenues. So I guess for me, just reflecting on how you can look after that health and finding ways, I guess, to stay motivated, even if there are, things like injuries that are, sometimes out of your control. How can you stay motivated or at least engaged so that you can try and keep your health up in other ways?
Yeah, that's so true. You know, when I do a lot of my reading and my coaching, and we always talk about what is the one thing that if you want to be successful in your life, it's not about the reading, it's not about meditating and all that kind of stuff. It's just about your physical health. If you can maintain your physical health, then everything else comes into play. And I think a lot of us forget about physical health, not because we do it actively, but just because no one has taught us that this is an important part of our body, of our lifestyles. And also the other thing is it's never too late to start. You know, some people go, "Oh, I've missed a boat." No, you can start whenever you want. And it doesn't mean you've got to be a superstar athlete. Just got to be moving just a little bit. But hey, I'm not a physician. I'm not a coach. I'm a well-being coach. But I just think any movement is good movement if you can do it there. As always, Tanya and myself can keep babbling on and on and on, but it's not about Tanya and myself. For our listeners out there, Tanya and myself, we scour the country, we scour the world to find people that we think we're amazing. And as we say every week, we think everyone is amazing. We'd love to have you all on here, but we can't. But this week, we are really privileged, very honored, and very lucky to have a superstar guest on our podcast. Welcome to our podcast, Kaita.
Kia ora. Thank you for having me.
Kia ora, Kaita. For our listeners who know nothing about you, do you just want to tell them a little bit about who you are at this moment, and then we'll get into your story?
Yeah, kia ora koutou, ko Fuji-san te maunga e runei takanaka, ko Lotus Awa Mahi nei aku maharahara, no pone ke ahau, no hapane hame ne oku tipuna, ko tēnei takumihi ki ngā tangata whenua, o te rohe nei ka mihi o kia ki ngā tohu. Kia ora, my name is Kaita. I was born in Wellington and, grew up in this beautiful city, Pōneke. I'm about 18 years old and I've just finished high school a few days ago. So going into a pretty exciting stage of my life. But yeah, what am I doing? I guess I'm interested in many sorts of things. I'd love to get involved. So yeah, whether it be like politics, climate, photography, cooking, quite a variety of stuff, I guess. So yeah, it's a bit about myself.
Awesome, beautiful. And what a great paradox we have right here. We have Tane finishing off his honors degree and you finishing off school. Two similar but very different experiences and chapters of your lives at the moment there. So what does it feel like just about to finish school? And as well, you forgot to mention about who you are, that you're also the head boy of your school this year. So this talk about finishing school, but also being head boy at school at the same time. What has that been like for you?
Finishing school. I mean, for the last few months, I've wanted it to speed up, and be over. I don't think that's because I'm bored of school, but it's just that I've been exposed to so many things outside of school, and I'm really excited to I'm more excited to go into the bigger world than to sit in a classroom and learn, as enticing as that may be. But yeah, school's been awesome for the last 5 years. This year I've had the privilege to be head boy, which is amazing. I think I've learned a lot in terms of leadership and how to lead as a person and as an individual. I think it came a lot from my principal this year, and it's something that's changed the way I look at quite a few things. But I think one word that will describe kind of my leadership journey this year as head boy is probably servant leadership. And that's like leading from the bottom and supporting people instead of coming from the top down kind of traditional power kind of hierarchy. So yeah.
Beautiful. And how did you come across that there? Was that from your principal, as you said, or was it something that's always been instilled in you as you have been a young person growing up?
I think it's honestly probably been a lot of my principal. He's a very good influence in my life, but I just think it's, as any other person, it just goes to show. I mean, when I came to school at year 9, I was a totally different person to what I am now. I think I was completely terrified of public speaking, but I just kept doing it, and now I can speak in front of massive crowds. So from year 9 to year 13, just a big transformation, just quite a lot. And also like the way you think in your brain, not the motivational stuff, but the kind of the parts in your life where you reflect on yourself. It's kind of those moments I've learned to kind of harness and develop, as whereas year 9 I'd be a bit more naive, you would say, as any year 9 would be. But yeah,
totally. I mean, growth happens over time, and it's all those people along the way that help you with your growth, whether it's your principal, whether it's a friend, whether it's a teacher, whether it's someone that's passing by. This growth that happens. But the growth happens only when you choose to accept the growth. A lot of us have all these amazing influences around us, but we choose not to listen to them. So yes, your principle has been important in your life, but you've taken on the learning. So, all credit to you as well, there. Kaita. I'm just going to touch on head boy for one more time, and then we're going to skip past that there. What is it like for you when you were announced as being head boy of Tower College? That moment there is pretty memorable for a lot of people when they apply for something or they get rewarded for something. What is that like for you when your name was read out?
Oh, it's a good question. I guess I think I was quite excited, to be frank. Just I was excited for the year ahead, and we're already thinking of all the things we could do, all the changes we could make. And I think that was the most distracting part. I think that was good, but in a sense, I don't know, I've been wanting to get head boy for a long time. From year 9, I saw the head boys, and they were always such a good influence, amazing speakers, very kind to me. So I knew I wanted to be that person for someone else. So, it was a kind of a goal from mine from year 9, just to become head boy. And then when I got it, I guess it's the same as when I've achieved other goals in my life. There's no, feeling of, it's not like you're on top of a mountain in a sense, but it seems pretty ordinary. I don't know. I think that highlights more of the journey getting there, or the journey afterwards, or what you do. Yeah. So didn't feel too much, but yeah, very rewarding throughout the year and the journey towards getting the position.
I love that. And I think that's a learning right there. When we have our goals, we get to a goal and everyone goes, cool, how do you feel right now? Actually, this is just part of my journey. In life, we have these people, correctly and incorrectly, we have these goals that we need to achieve by external forces. And when you get there, you're like, all right, cool, now what? And it's important just to put it into perspective. Very cool. I've got this goal, but what do I do with it? That's the important thing, as opposed to the actual title. As you said just before, you have done lots of things out of the classroom. I'm going to touch on one. I think that's the most recent one. Would be your Blake experience. Let's talk about that there. Your journey with the Blake Foundation, the Blake Trust. What was that like for you? How did you get into that there?
That was amazing. So I think it was probably about at the start of the year, applications came out, and it's for Blake. So if you didn't know, Blake is run by Sir Peter Blake Foundation, and he was the amazing sailor who went all over the world. And he set up this trust and this foundation, and they run a 1-week camp, which is Blake Inspire, and that ran through April this year. So I was privileged enough to be accepted onto that course, and it was 1 week with some awesome people, passionate about the environment, passionate about science, passionate about policy making, all sorts of things. And we got together and we did some pretty cool activities. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And what made you apply for it? I know you're a national leader, but you know you have an application form. You don't have to do it. You're like, okay, cool, whatever. It's another form. Why did you want to do it?
I think it wasn't so much. I know that any experience would be good, but for me, it's kind of just like applying for everything I can. Because I think there are very few things that I would enjoy, especially if it's a week out, in Auckland, exploring the bush or on a boat. But there are very few things that I think I won't enjoy if I sign up for. So it's more kind of just giving everything a go that really kind of pushed me to sign up.
Beautiful, and I love that because the worst thing that happens is say no to you. Okay, cool, this, but you got to apply, right? You got to apply.
Yeah.
And I also noticed that when I was reading, obviously I did some research about it before I jump on. One of your goals, you mentioned goals earlier on, was to be a TEDx speaker, and you made that goal become a reality this year. Or when you did it, what is it like for you? And first of all, what is the motivation to do the TED talk? And secondly, we'll talk about the topic as well, which is really interesting.
I think a lot of kind of going for your goals and kind of reaching for your goals for me is about initiative and working hard. I'm not necessarily in a believer in like, you'll set your goal and you'll get your goal. That's not something I believe in, but I think that if you put a lot of hard work into what you want, you will get it. And I think one of those things this year was TEDx, as you said. At the start of the year, I knew one of my friends, his name's Nate Wilburn. He did a TEDx talk on nature, and that was down in Nelson. And that was, I think, when he was about 14 or something. So very, very young, but it was very inspiring. He's also one of the people who went on Blake with me. But yeah, so very inspiring, and I knew it was something I wanted to do. So I guess I just reached out, and it was a very long application process, but I think it was a lot of perseverance and hard work, and I knew I wanted it. So it was awesome when I got the chance to speak. And I think I've said this to many people, but you don't get many chances where you get to speak about anything you want on such a big scale, and just, be able to share your ideas on anything you could ever wish for, and impact lots of people. So yeah, I think it was probably one of the highlights of this year.
Okay, fantastic. But also apart from that, getting on, the topic you spoke about was really, really interesting. Do you want to tell us about what motivates you on the topic there that you spoke about? And why is that an important thing to you and for others to listen to as well?
So my topic was kind of recognizing the role of Indigenous knowledge in science. And I think it came through an intersection of my interest and my passion. So one of my big passion is science, and that's something I find, super interesting, subjects I've taken in school, but also extracurricular with stuff like science fair. So I'm really cool. I've always been interested in how the world works. So I guess that's what brought me to science. And then the other half is kind of Indigenous knowledge. And I feel like that's my commitment to the treaty in a sense, but also my commitment to making Aotearoa a better place. So I love doing speech competitions like Race Unity, which look at race relations within Aotearoa. And it's always been a passion of mine to kind of, explore the justice route as well. So recognizing Indigenous knowledge and its importance and significance, and then recognizing how it fits into science was something which I was always interested in, but especially something I wanted to talk about because, it can be quite traditional and I guess clinical in a sense in the science sector. So recognizing how Indigenous knowledge can help inform us to make better decisions in a way.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. And given with your research, what do you want to share some of those Indigenous resources that you think might be useful for us to learn about?
Yeah, what ones are perhaps best? I think perhaps this is better told through a story, but maybe about
let's go and tell a story.
Ago,
we'll love a story.
time.
We'll love a good story, exactly. Yeah.
3 months ago, I went down to, this was part of my speech. So, are you aware of Zealandia?
Yes.
Yeah. So they have an awesome kind of youth ambassador group, and they took us for a walk, and we went down the Kumototo stream, which is a stream which is in Wellington, but surprisingly, it's actually been like culverted and buried under the ground. So it's a full stream. It's got crayfish, it's got eels, it's got bullyfish. So all this wildlife, but it's been piped up and it's been put in pipes and it's, you know, buried underneath the ground, and it runs from the terrace and it comes down the alley with the spinning top right under, I think it's Midland Park, and then right out to the harbor and comes out by the Kina sculptures. So, you know, there's a full flowing awa underneath the city and no one really realizes. And the shocking thing is, if you walk along the stream, you can see stormwater drains, and, you know, all the dust and all the particles and all the pollution just runs straight into the same pipe that the river runs through. So obviously not a very good thing happening, but we know that there's a lot of wildlife down there and it's still surviving, you know, despite how we're treating it. And so we did a walk with this ambassador group and they showed us the route of the stream. And it's almost, I think that's what sparked the idea. And that's what kind of made me want to talk about Indigenous knowledge and science. And I guess the whole idea was not perhaps that Indigenous knowledge is, you know, more complex than science, but that it's useful in its own way. I think we can't deny that in science, you know, Western science provides us with technicalities and, you know, specific instruments which let us monitor things, and it's helped us a lot. But we also got to remember that it doesn't kind of give human-like qualities to what we're studying. And so the whole idea was through the story of kind of, you know, caring for something that we can't see, caring for life, you know, wherever that may be. And it's kind of just using Indigenous knowledge to humanize and recognize that, you know, life is life. We must care about the land. So it's kind of revolved around the story with Awa, the Kumototo stream, which not too many people know about in Wellington, sadly. But yeah, so all about the stream and kind of not looking at it as you know, like a polyvinyl chloride pipe with H2O running through it. You know, it's a living, breathing part of our land that we must take care of.
I think what's important there is that we all look around things. Nature's all around us, you know, it's all around us. But unfortunately, when it's out of sight, it's out of mind, people don't think about it. And only when things get really bad that you go, oh, what about nature? You know, and we see that in the world at the moment with climate change and the weather patterns changing and the fires and, you know, the weather just going ridiculously crazy. But it's always been in front of us. It's always been there, but we've just chosen not to see it, or it's been hidden from us, you know, through no fault of anybody. So it's really awesome that you have spoken about this, but also the fact that it's got a link to Indigenous culture as well, because when we think about Indigenous living in New Zealand, we just think about Maori culture, right? But every single country in the world has got an Indigenous population that has been there for a long, long time. And, you know, and I think it's really important for us to understand that Indigenous doesn't mean one particular nation. It means every nation, and they're people, or the peoples, you know, whatever they are, wherever they come from. And it's very easy to forget that. And, you know, rightly or wrongly, it's time to probably acknowledge and change that through whatever way. And talking about change, one of the other things that you're involved in, Kaita, we're just jumping all over the place here with change, is photography. You know, photography is your jam, and you know, your one of your articles with Creative Media recently was about being a photographer that takes photos in activism. Then talk about that and how you got involved in that whole space there.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to one of my key values, which is, you know, just giving everything a try. Using my initiative to get involved. That's one message in my school that's sat with me for a long time. Get involved, just, you know, do everything you can. And photography is one of the ways I try help various kaupapa in Pōneke. So for example, the School Strike for Climate, which was an awesome initiative, and I got involved with them and was privileged enough to take photos for them in the protest, which is I guess in a way I see myself amplifying their cause and supporting them, but also a way where I can enjoy myself and develop a hobby as well.
And what it's like for you, though, because, you know, in those protests, they, you know, whatever protest activism, you know, whether you're right, they're capturing the raw reality of people doing their thing. What is it like for you when you take the photo, go back home, check it on your computer, and you develop it? What does that do for you when you see the raw reality of humanity?
I think in a sense, it's quite beautiful. I realized, these are young people who are really passionate about what they're doing, and they're giving their all, and they're putting all their effort into this kaupapa, and I think it's to be able to capture that as a privilege. I try to do my best, through photography, the way you do it, get down low, get different angles, editing, I try to do a lot of kind of street photography, so black and white, just to really show the emotion. But yeah, I try my best to portray the amount of effort that has gone into organizing these protests, and I guess the worry that many of these rangatahi have concerning the climate and how it's changing at the moment.
It's beautiful. If you haven't seen the article, I strongly recommend having a look at it because your photos are pretty striking. So yeah, thanks for sharing that there. But talking about sharing as well, over the last few weeks, we've had Lola Fisher, we've had Arthi, we've had Rashida, and a strong theme that's come across is how rangatahi across New Zealand are now not afraid to use their voices in whatever sphere. What is that like for you as a young person in the sphere here, being active, seeing the groundswell, or not even the groundswell, just the impact that young rangatahi in New Zealand are having, putting out their voices? Because this is not something that's happened for a very long time. It's been in the background, but now with people like yourself, with Nate, with Lola, with Create at Happy Media, it's changing the landscape a little bit. What does that make you feel as a young person?
I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's good that you feel empowered to make change or to raise their voice, which is always good. I feel that people think even though their voices may not be as valued, that they, feel as they have the right to speak up, which is the most important thing. Yeah.
And what is it? And also the other thing, and apart from that, there is not just speaking up, it's also you are now meeting with people that have influence, the mayor, the prime minister, people like that. What is that like for you? Were you now in the same room as people that actually can make decisions and hearing and building your voices being heard, as opposed to tick boxes, hopefully?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think one of the biggest things, coming face to face with people who are making the big decisions is realizing that they're also human. The other day I had the privilege of meeting David Seymour, which is, perhaps one of the more controversial and scrutinized politicians when it comes to the youth space. But he was a lovely man, and he provided some awesome discussion. We had a good chat, and he's nothing like you see on social media. And I was only in the room for him, talking with him for about 30 minutes, I guess. But and that may not have been an accurate representation of what he is all the time. But I think it just goes to show that the youth space can be, it can be used to empower rangatahi, and it can be used to incite hope, and it's an awesome place to share ideas. But it's also, you got to remember that it's can be sometimes quite biased, and that the ideas floating around, they have good intention in all cases. Yeah, in most cases, they've got good intention at heart. But it's interesting to see how kind of things switch up, when you meet people who are making the big decisions face to face, and they seem like, your neighbor or someone you'd see on the street.
And it's so crazy because for perspective, everybody thinks they're doing the right thing. Everybody, whether you're a good person or a bad person, well, sorry, bad, I'll rephrase that. Everyone thinks what they're doing is for the betterment of whatever, because it's their worldview, right? And unless you disrupt that worldview, I think I'm doing the right thing. But unless someone says to me, hey, this is not the right thing, I'm never going to know that. And so it's so easy for us to judge and be judged, but actually stop and go, wait a minute, let me look at the whole perspective. And the way the world is at the moment is it's super binary. It's either black or white or 1 and 0. And unfortunately, the world doesn't live like that there. So it's really interesting that you've said, hey, you met. For people out of New Zealand who don't know who David Seymour is, he's a politician, says some controversial things. Some people love him, some people don't like him, and that's fine, whatever. But he's portrayed as a different kind of person, as to, like you said, what he could be in person. But everyone is different, right? Everybody is different. But I'm going to change tack just a little bit, Kaita. I'm going to talk about you're obviously a young person doing some pretty cool things. Let's talk about your family and your family's involvement in this year, because this doesn't just happen. Like, this doesn't just happen. What has been your family? How have they nurtured and helped you become this young person that's out there doing these really cool things here?
So my mum is from Japan originally, and my dad is from Germany. So as you could probably tell, I grew up in a pretty strict household. I'm pretty grateful for that though, because I've learned, to be disciplined and to work hard. And I think it's more indirectly the values, they've taught me, than the support, which is super valuable because I've been able to apply that to whatever I do. And I think it's probably just the element of discipline, which has, benefited me the most.
Yeah, and I guess also the advantage you have of all these different cultures, the Japanese culture, the German culture, living in New Zealand with its crazy culture there, which you can, like I said before, you take what you want and you make it what you want, your own flavor. Talking about flavor and taking what you want, you're also a volunteer. Let's talk about your SVA work, because volunteering is something that's pretty big in New Zealand, but some people do it just because they want to collect the hours. What is your motivation to become a volunteer?
That's very interesting.
An ambassador. Yeah.
Yeah. So this year I was a volunteer and ambassador for the Student Volunteer Army, which is a kind of a service award similar to the Duke of Edinburgh. They're awesome. I think one of my motivation to join is just to help people out, and that's what I enjoy doing. It's just giving back to a community, and I think it's as simple as that. I've gained so much from other people, and I've gained so much support. So just giving that back to those who are vulnerable and those who may have not had the the lucky situations I have, or the opportunities and experiences that I've been able to experience. So just really giving back. But it's interesting that you say, some people's motivation is the hours and stuff. And that's a conversation that, I've had with many people this year. And if you don't know, SVA has different badges. So, if you get 50 hours, you'll get a different badge, 200 hours, a different badge. And it's kind of linked into this discussion I've been having with my principal all year, and it's about leadership and, tokenism. And we're talking about badges. You see private schools and they have all these badges lined up. They probably would sink in a river, you drop them in. But all about what represents leadership. And does having all these badges mean you're a good leader, or does it just mean you're being recognized, or you want to be recognized as a leader? And what do you find of value in leadership? Are you just doing all these things for the badges? And I guess probably looking at myself in year 9, yeah, I would have been doing it for the badges. So I think any person who hasn't been able to have these conversations with people about what leadership is does inherently recognize that, I do the hours, I get this badge and I get rewarded. But looking at myself and my journey and coming to where I am now, I don't find any value in the badges. It's for me, it serves as a reminder of all the people I've been able to help, and kind of the places I've been privileged enough to volunteer in. So I guess that's what badges represent for me. But in a tokenistic sense, I think we even had the conversation this year of removing badges from our school. We're a public school, so we don't really have too many badges. But for the ones we have, it's all about tokenism, I guess, and what that badge represents. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one, right? Because as you said in your own journey as a year 9, the badge was the incentive, but as you start doing the badge disappears, and you go, if there was no badge, would you have done it as a year 9? I mean, there's no right wrong answer, right? So we go for some of us, we have a material output that we like to see, but as we start our journey, the material output becomes, you forget about it because it becomes more about the act that you're doing. Which, I mean, we're all human, we all love material validation, and it's with life we didn't like that there. But the change happens when that disappears. That doesn't become the main focus, but the actual act of whatever you do is. So, there's no right or wrong, right? It could start as a tokenism, and it could end up being amazing. And even like you said, though, Kaita, even if it's one person that changes, you've impact is massive. And talking about massive impact, Tana, you've been involved in volunteering quite a bit as well. Let's talk about that there, because university is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, it's been Yeah, it's been an interesting journey and a journey throughout my whole university time. Yeah, it started off as just an interest of, I guess, giving something a go without the pressure of, having to commit like you do with a job or something like that, but also a chance to try different things that I wouldn't necessarily get an open door into. And so, it started off that way, but then I learned pretty quickly that I just liked giving back to people, similar to Kaita. And I think, yeah, it's a big learning curve when you're doing things, yeah, because you want to do them opposed to feeling you have to do it. And it's rewarding. There's not, we've discussed before that, there's going to be some things that you don't enjoy throughout your volunteering career. There's going to be things that, sound cool, but you go to do it and you realize the idea is better than, the actual event or whatever that you dedicate your time to. But I think learning those, it gives you other invaluable values that you necessarily wouldn't have gained in any other atmosphere. And I think the other challenge, which I was reminded this year, going into more of a leadership role through the social impact studio, was talking around males specifically, and how, particularly when we get into the university space and beyond, we tend to see that there's a lot more females in the volunteering space compared to males. And so talking about some of those barriers and, how can we break those barriers? What are the barriers? And, do we even know what the barriers are? And I guess it's, if I ask the same question to Kaita, it's probably a difficult one to answer because we're in the volunteering space. So obviously there's been something for us that, we've acknowledged allows us to go into these spaces, whereas some people, sometimes there's just not an interest. There's plenty of possible answers out there, but I guess it's just a reality when you go into the volunteering space.
Yeah, and I guess it's different motivations, right, to get into volunteering, and also you don't know what you don't know. I told a story to the head of Impact Studio the other day about a person that I was working with this year who's in their third year, and they were just not in a happy space at all, like in a really, really bad space. And I just said to them, hey, go and join Unicrew, go and join Unicrew. And just by doing that, and that's the volunteer space, and just by doing that, they gave that person purpose. Because sometimes you get so lost that when you do some volunteering work, you find purpose to doing whatever you want to do. So whether it's getting a badge, whether it's helping people, or whether it's just finding that purpose which you don't know you need. Like you said, Tanya, there's no way of knowing, and there's no right or wrong answer. So it's a very complicated. Like I said before, there's no right or wrong in the thing. There's life. We go with ones and zeros all our lives, but sorry, not all our lives. All our lives we go through gray, and then we come to a stage where things become 1 and 0, which is pretty crazy, pretty crazy. Any thoughts about that, Kaita?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing I've taken away this year is that leadership isn't 100% selfless. As humans, we crave attention, we crave gratitude, we want to be recognized, and there's nothing wrong with that if we're not giving ourselves, gratification for doing good things. We're going to become lost. So I think there's no harm in rewarding yourself, especially for, younger years who may not have had these conversations about what leadership means to them. Yeah, badges are an awesome incentive. And I think, it's worked so far. So, you don't have to be 100% selfless as a leader. I think, in fact, if you are, you're probably going to burn out at some point very quickly. So, yeah, just recognizing that humans are humans.
And that's right. Sometimes we live in a world where being selfish is a bad thing, but it's actually not a bad thing. Sometimes you have to be selfish, look after yourself. As Tana said before, your health. You look after yourself because you're being selfless. Everybody loses out. So I love the way you put that there. It's okay not to be selfless all the time as a leader as well. And we are humans. Let's be honest. Everyone loves to be acknowledged in some way, even though we might go, it doesn't matter. Somewhere inside of us, inherently, acknowledgement exists. We all love that there. Whether it's a thank you very much, or it's a badge, or whether it's a celebration, it just makes us feel good or validates us in whatever way. Because all of us live in a world where there's some sort of imposter syndrome going on, or imposter state going on. The other thing I want to talk about is another experience that you had, Kaita. This is, I think, was really, really awesome, because I think there's lots you can share here with us. Is your visit to the UK. for the London Youth Innovation Science Forum. What is that like for you? And again, one of three to get invited to go along there. So first of all, let's talk about being the one of three, and then we'll talk about the experience. What is that like for you as a young person being, hey, there's three of you that are going, you're one of them?
I think you could say imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I don't think, well, naturally, I've never been the smartest, in terms of critical thinking on the spot, but I do know how to put effort in. And I think that's how I worked my way up, and I applied. It was a real shot in the dark. I journaled in my book a few days before, I went for this. Massive shot in the dark there. I think thousands of people who applied for it, and I happened to be picked. So it was just a testament to, may as well give anything a try. You never know. And it couldn't be more of a true example of that saying. So it was awesome. Quite life changing. It was a week overseas. Oh, sorry, 2 weeks. Already forgotten. 2 weeks overseas. 1 week of travel, which was awful, but getting there was amazing. We got to meet world leading scientists, which was absolutely incredible for someone who's interested in science to be able to, come face to face with those who are making the new cancer drugs, running the world's biggest nuclear reactors, and all sorts of things. So absolutely mind blowing, also life changing to be able to do it with people all around the world, people from Singapore, people from Sweden, from the UK, just a whole bunch of people who are interested in the same thing, and to be able to go around and learn so much. Yeah, life changing.
And how many people were there from around the world? Was it 10, 20, 30, or was it how many people?
Yeah, so it was I think it was 180.
Wow, amazing.
So no, let me have a think. Oh no, I think 200-ish and
Okay.
180 nations.
Wow, amazing.
So yeah,
that's
so
nearly the whole
people
world,
from all around the world. Yeah,
amazing.
it was super interesting. You'd walk down the street and you'd see a girl from Saudi with her bodyguard because she's, a princess, or you'll walk down and you'll come out of your hotel room and there'll be your teammate, and he's from Kenya, and he's only come on a scholarship and he has one change of clothes. So it was a wide variety of people from all over the world, and due to scholarships, people from all types of backgrounds were able to attend. So it was eye-opening to see some countries, they didn't even have a science institute because their government was so corrupt. So pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's moments like that that you realize, hey, we're all very different, but one of the unifiers is education. Education is pretty powerful, no matter where you are in the world, if you have those opportunities, which is really, it's quite surreal to think about it when you live in a country where education is taken for granted. You wake up in the morning, you're going to go to school, or you have the choice of going to school. You go to 16, you're like, I can go to school if I want to, or not go to school. It's pretty crazy. Not saying that either way is the right way, whereas in some countries, education is a privilege. To get to school for a young female in some countries, you're a female, you can't study. Pretty crazy, right? Whereas here we don't have to worry about that, which is we're very lucky where we are at the moment. One of the things I read on your little blurb was going to one of the hottest places or hottest nuclear reactor. What is that like? What is the nuclear? What is it? The hottest nuclear reactor? Or I can't. You can correct me. You can correct me on that.
So hottest place in the solar system when it's turned on.
Crazy.
So I think, if I remember, it was 150 times hotter than the sun when turned on.
What was that like? What was that like for you? Were you?
I was pretty cold. It was pretty cold, to be honest. They should have turned the heating on. But
come on, guys.
It was amazing. Yeah. So it was at Oxford University, and they call it a topomac. So it looks like a donut, kind of the inside of a donut. What they do is they heat up plasma, which is so they heat up gas to make plasma, and it spins around so fast. And yeah, that's what creates the energy. They can vent that out and use the steam to run a turbine. But yeah, to be honest, I think the only thing I was thinking there was humans have harnessed something 150 times hotter than the sun, which is amazing to think about.
Which is crazy. Yeah, mind blowing. Yeah. Mind blowing. Yeah, we'll have a great barbecue there. It'll be great. 2 minutes in, done. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of the crazy fun things that you got up to while you're over there? If you want to share some of that there, apart from all the educational stuff, what are some stuff that you're like, hey, as a young person, this is really cool?
Yeah, I guess phew, probably just catching the tube at night.
Yeah.
You know, walking around town, seeing the lights, that was amazing. You know, playing a game of football in the park, Hyde Park, with some strangers, which was so cool. Maybe like going for a swim at 3 in the morning in Hyde Park. Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's crazy. The reason I ask the question is because, we are all humans. We all have this expectation where we should always be at a high level of education or just all go, go, go. But actually, hey, having fun is still important as well. Having fun is important. And Tana, you had some fun yesterday. Let's talk about that day. You were in Blenheim. You had some fun.
Yeah. Went to my niece's first ever gymnastics competition, which was cool to go and see and go and get involved. And then went to fireworks display, which was pretty cool. The school fundraiser as well, which is always good to get behind and get amongst. And I think particularly for Blenheim, which is a smaller community in New Zealand, it's cool to see having something like that where you really do get that sense of community. Whereas some of those bigger communities, you have a community event, but it doesn't feel quite the same as when it really is a small community that everyone kind of gets behind. Which is cool to see, and I guess cool to be a part of. It's creating those memories that as you say, when you go, you kind of forget to just slow the pace down a bit.
Yeah, and it's a good way to remind ourselves that, hey, sometimes it's good to laugh at ourselves or laugh with others. Laugh with, not laugh at. Yeah, keep it. Unless they're a comedian, there's a different story. Kaita, you cover so much here, and if we were going to, as an 18-year-old or almost 18, if we were to distill down a few things, what 3 things would you say are your passion at this point in time, or things that just get you fired up? We're going to stick to 3 because I know there could be tons there. And mindful that these can change. These will change as you grow. But at this point in time, as you go into your next step of the journey of your chapter, I guess, your life.
I think first one, impact. Whatever I end up, no matter where that is, just making a positive influence on communities, on other people's lives, on the individual, communal, or maybe even national level, just contributing. And knowing you're doing something good. I think that's my purpose. No matter where I end up, no matter what job I'm doing, as long as I'm making an impact. So that's number 1. Number 2 is just more of an interest, science. No matter what I do, I think that's how I want to make the impact. And number 3 is just have fun. Not try too hard. Not get caught up in stuff. Just know we're on a floating rock in the middle of space. So just don't get too angry over stuff. Don't stress.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, right? I love those things. Those are really, really interesting things, and they might stay the same as you go forward because they're so broad that they can be anything that's impacts science and having fun. If that changes culture, then I can't talk to you anymore. You gotta have fun. Yeah, whether you are 18 or 99, you gotta have some fun. Kaita, we've been speaking for almost 50 minutes now, and there's so much we can go into. Any questions for us before we ask you some of these final questions that we love?
Yeah, I was wondering perhaps, is there a theme you see between the people that you interview?
Yeah, the people that we speak to, I will tell you what I've noticed over the last 90 odd episodes that we've had on is, and something you mentioned at the start is opportunities. And taking opportunities where they are. We have had every single one of our guests has mentioned that they found an opportunity in something and they've just given themselves a go. Some of our guests or some people have said, someone has said no to them, so they just closed the door. Whereas others have told us that, hey, someone have said no to them, but they just took on the opportunity. They didn't say no to anything. When someone came in front of them, they just said, yes, we're going to give it a crack, or we're going to apply for things, even if we are 53 or 63 or 16 or 12, we're going to just apply and see what happens, because I think the worst that could happen is someone says no to you. And I think that's really quite heartening for myself on this podcast, for myself as a person, and also in my role. You know, when I work with young people, I always speak about opportunities and you know, not getting bogged down by titles and labels. You know, in the space that I work in with, oh, I wanted a double degree or a double major. I was like, who cares about that? Don't even care about that. Let's just focus on the opportunities of you know, what are you interested in? What's the fun stuff? All those labels will come later on. And I see that as well in my coaching practice as well. So that's been the big theme for me. Tane, do you want to share your themes?
Yeah, I think for me, probably the biggest learning has been that everyone has a story, but I think sometimes they forget they have their own story and they forget to reflect on the journey and the amazing things that they've been able to do, you know. And I think this has been a really cool thing for us to get to learn about so many people, but also for people to take a step back and go, oh, actually, I've done some pretty cool things. Yes, I've, you know, made some mistakes along the way. It hasn't all been, you know, sunshine and rainbows, but I've got all these amazing things, and that's what makes me me. And I think, yeah, as I say, I think people too often forget about that because we're either so go, 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 or, you know, when we catch up with people, it's always small talk and never the deep conversations. And I think, yeah, as I say, this is hopefully a platform for people, you know, to realize that, yeah, everyone has a story, and that, you know, sometimes it is good to reflect on some of those bigger things that you do achieve, because I think otherwise you lose sense of, you know, the things you're doing day to day and what it's actually contributing towards.
Yeah, I think that's right, because sometimes we are so busy living our norm that we forget our norm is not everybody's norm. Yeah, great question there, Kaita. Getting us thinking on our own podcast. What? How dare you do that? How dare you do that?
Sorry.
Never be sorry. Never be sorry. You took the opportunity, which is great. So our last question, as we start to wrap up, we might have a few more, but as we start to wrap up, you know, our podcast is called Baskets of Knowledge, and every week we invite our guests to share a piece of knowledge that myself, Tane, and our guests could put into our basket of knowledge as we go forward. So, Kaita, feel free to share a piece of knowledge to put into our basket. Can be anything that you like.
Probably, I guess, since kind of initiative and everything, you know, giving everything a go has been something that's turned up quite a lot. I probably will go with the opposite, which might be aware.
Yeah.
I think that serves as many meanings, but it's almost as kind of be spatially aware of your surroundings. I guess it's hard to describe, but the way I've kind of made myself work towards that goal is journaling, and that's something important. You know, I always thought of it as some, you know, cringy Dear Diary, something like that. But for me, that's just whenever I hear something someone says, which is, you know, really impactful. Whether I hear something online, whether I read something, I just journal that in, or kind of like journal my journey, but also on what I'm feeling. And I guess all of that kind of comes under be aware. And the purpose of that for me is just to you know, understand when are you kind of riddling yourself up, you know, when you spiraling down, when you're getting angry, when you shouldn't be, you know, what habits do you have which aren't too good. So just, I guess, being aware of kind of who you are and where you want to go, and where you want to end up, I guess. Yeah.
Love that, you know, and I think that circles really back nicely to what Tane said about taking time to reflect, but, you know, being aware, spatially, being aware physically, emotionally, being aware of your thoughts and others. That's very important, because a lot of us don't do that there, right? We just keep going the whole time. Or it goes back to what you said before. If we think about, hey, I've got to be aware, I'm not being selfish, but actually that's being selfless for yourself, right? So it's really beautiful. Mm-hmm. Yeah, be aware. What a great piece of knowledge to put into our basket there. Fantastic. Any last words, Kaita or Tane?
Not at the moment.
No, beautiful. Well, thank you for jumping on, Kaita. You know,
No worries.
we've heard so much about all the awesomeness that you've done. You know, but the key thing that's come across is just what a beautiful human you are. You know, just your presence is fantastic, and whatever you end up doing next, I know there's going to be impact in the science world where you're going to have lots of fun. So beautiful. To our listeners out there, hopefully you have enjoyed listening to this episode tonight, so today or this afternoon, wherever you are in the world. If you have not learned anything, go back and listen again because you haven't been listening properly. Till next time, don't forget to put something into your past knowledge. And Kaita, thank you very much for jumping on again.
Thank you.
Till next time, ka kite, take care, bye everybody.
Thank you for listening to Baskets of Knowledge.
Yeah, we hope that you found something useful to put into your basket of knowledge. And as we said before, remember to put something little into your baskets of knowledge every week. And as always, feel free to like, comment, and share this podcast. Thanks, everybody. Bye.